This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Campbell Menswear.
Tonight on The South Today, police warn a mongrel mob member who has removed his ankle bracelet should not be approached. Local international relations experts say the new US president-elect will bring a sense of global stability. And it's hoped a new Queenstown mountain bike trail will become a must-do for local and eventually overseas tourists. Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi o te ahi nei, kia ora, I'm Simon Anderson. A Dunedin gang member whose assault in a petrol station forecourt led to the death of another man is on the loose. Police are now searching for mongrel mob member John Boy Rakete and say he could already be as far away as Auckland.
A mongrel mob member behind a fatal gas station attack in Dunedin is now on the run after having removed his ankle bracelet. In 2018, police detectives were on the scene after Nigel Landreth was callously assaulted on the forecourt of the South Dunedin petrol station by mongrel mob member John Boy Rakete. As his victim lay on the ground, convulsing and gasping for air, Rakete poured a soft drink over him. The victim succumbed to his injuries 14 months later. But because he died more than a year and a day from the time of the crime, legislation, which has since been repealed, dictated Rakete could not be charged with murder or manslaughter. Instead, Rakete served 2 years and 2 months behind bars on a charge of causing grievous bodily harm with reckless disregard. The parole board then imposed a range of release conditions which would run for 6 months in an attempt to mitigate the risk of Rakete reoffending. As part of that, the mongrel mob member had to submit to electronic monitoring. The Department of Corrections confirms Rakete removed his bracelet yesterday morning, and police believe he may now be in Auckland. They warn that Rakete should not be approached. In Dunedin, The South Today.
Dunedin's municipal chambers and the town hall will be examined after some ornamental stonework recently fell from the chambers building. While nobody was hurt in the recent incident, scaffolding and netting have been placed around the buildings as a precaution, as both require more remedial work. The council says a heritage architect and specialist stonemason will investigate the building's exterior to determine what needs to be done in the short term. The municipal chambers date back to 1880, but the council doesn't know yet if the stone that fell was part of the original construction. The cost of temporary scaffolding and netting is about $50,000. Two University of Otago international relations experts say President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris will bring a sense of global stability. But the 45th president is vowing to fight on in court over postal votes, which he claims shouldn't be counted.
It appears US President Trump has been fired by voters in the 2020 US elections. Ahead of the 2016 election, international relations expert Robert Patman predicted Donald Trump would have a negative impact on global peace.
I'd like to say I was unnecessarily alarmist, but unfortunately I don't take any great satisfaction from it. I think in many respects Mr. Trump has exceeded my worst predictions.
But it appeared in the early years of the Trump presidency, his business-like negotiation skills could pay off, with improved relations with Asia. But, as Nicholas Koo outlines, it wasn't to last.
China, as we know, is getting stronger year by year, and it will present a very, very challenging situation for the United States. And as we know, the United States has to deal with many, many internal economic, political, social issues at the same time as handling its China policy.
Fluent in Mandarin and English, Dr. Koo is a noted expert on the relationship between America and China, believing the situation will improve under President-elect Joe Biden.
A generally better U.S. alliance policy. Trump is very well known for denigrating U.S. alliances and claiming that the United States has not benefited from its relationship with its allies. That is something that Biden will repudiate. And that is a big development in terms of the Asia Pacific, which is where we in New Zealand exist and thrive in.
His thoughts on US international relations are shared by Professor Robert Patman, who says President-elect Biden's message of unity is striking a chord with many.
Obviously something about 70 million Americans who voted for Mr. Trump didn't hear it.
Professor Patman says another way in which Joe Biden differs from the 45th president is in their approach to COVID-19.
So I think we're going to see a much more focused attempt to bring the pandemic under control. A week ago, Mr. Trump's Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, indicated they were no longer seeking to control the pandemic.
World leaders across the globe, including New Zealand's Jacinda Ardern, have offered messages of support for Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, the first woman to be elected to the role of Vice President of the United States of America. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A solution to Roxburgh's flooding woes has finally been announced, but it'll come at a price of more than $500,000. The severe flooding, which has occurred in the Teviot Valley over recent years, could be solved by just a single culvert. The New Zealand Transport Agency says replacing a narrow culvert with a much larger one just up from the valley is the solution. This follows a catchment study by the Otago Regional Council, which found gravel had accumulated and blocked an undersized culvert after heavy rains. The NZTA is also working on improving two other culverts down the valley from Roxburgh, which also flooded in large rainfall events. The total work is expected to cost around $575,000. A new mountain bike trail was opened near Queenstown over the weekend, providing a vertical descent of more than 1 kilometre at Coronet Peak. Organisers say they hope it'll become part of a bucket list for local and eventually overseas tourists.
A crowd of two-wheel enthusiasts turned up for Saturday's opening of the latest extension to the mountain bike track that descends Queenstown's Coronet Peak via a trail called Rude Rock.
Rude Rock is one of those iconic tracks that people sort of come from all around the world to ride, and you get to the end of it, you're like, oh, imagine if it went all the way to the valley floor, and it's always sort of been a dream, and now we've been able to make it happen. So I think now we've kind of got 1,200 metres of vertical descending from the top of Coronet to the valley floor, which should be pretty amazing.
Financial backer Rod Drury says the closing of New Zealand's borders gave a strong push for the building of this final leg of the downhill descent, which cost about $40,000.
Some of the best trail builders in the world, a lot of them are stuck in New Zealand as well. So when you see the quality of what they've built here, this is an iconic track that really is a must-do for all New Zealand mountain bikers and hopefully all overseas mountain bikers as well.
Drury is hoping Queenstown's mountain bike trails will end up on the bucket list for New Zealand tourists.
Like, I really believe that mountain biking is just one of those things that almost everybody can do, and it's something that we actually travel to do, and these world-class tracks do create destination tourism. So it's been a great collaboration, and this is the first of hopefully a whole lot of new trails that we can build.
And this is not the last of new mountain bike trails being built in the region, with a 50-kilometre track from Coronet Peak through the bottom of Skipper's Canyon and then onto Macetown, currently under construction. In Queenstown, the South Today.
Still to come on the South Today. Southern tree climbers competed at the weekend to see who was at the top of their game, and two fishing vessels embroiled in COVID-19 drama leave Dunedin. Ka kite a konei.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Hi, Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. Come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. And check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So come and check out Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Allied Press and the Otago Daily Times are an integral part of business in Otago and the South, and these awards are really our opportunity to celebrate and amplify what goes on in this part of the world and the successes that we have.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
You've seen us in the street, now find us online. Check out shopon.org.nz. We have all sorts of treasures, from retro and vintage clothing to antiques, homewares and accessories. New items added every week. We're open 24/7.
Hinoranga Tirama. No shows and walkouts dominate the hunt to find seasonal workers across central Otago. The quest for workers is proving a headache, especially for vineyards, and Kiwi work attitudes are being blamed for the crunch. One vineyard director says he has a consistent issue of people leaving after being hired, as well as newly hired staff never showing up. Andy Wilkinson says 6 out of 8 recently hired staff were Kiwis who walked off the job. The only 2 of the 8 that stayed were a pair of French workers. The Central Otago Fruit Growers Association says the crisis of a lack of workers is also coming for orchardists. This year's best male and female tree climbers were found in Queenstown over the weekend, and the 2 champions that arose from the 30-odd entrants may compete in the World Finals next year.
Queenstown Gardens played host to the National Tree Climbing Championship in the weekend, with arborists travelling from across the country to the resort. The best of the first round ended up in the final Masters competition, which involved having to set up their own rope system and do a number of tasks, all in the time limit of half an hour.
So you need to be able to assess the tree from the ground, you need to throw a line in high into the canopy, install a rope, go up the rope, ascend into the tree, make yourself safe at all times, and then do the workstations as well and get all your gear out within the allocated time limit. Here they've got 30 minutes in total.
Day 1 had started off with about 24 men and half a dozen women competing, with the final winner of the women's section in Day 2 being Steph Dreifhout, who says she got hooked into arboriculture while working at a tree nursery.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it and sort of formed a passion for horticulture. And then, while I was there, I saw a video of someone climbing a tree being an arborist, and I just had this light bulb moment, and I thought that's what I've got to do. So I went and studied at Wintec.
The event is intended not just as a competition, but also as an experience that arborists can learn from.
The International Society of Arboriculture is kind of the governing body that the competitions is held through. They're very proactive in education, and they want people to use these practices in the workplace, so we try and implement what we do in the workplace into here. So this is an industry-based competition.
The winners of the New Zealand competition are set to compete at an international event in Copenhagen next year. In Queenstown, the South today.
International mariners at the centre of a COVID-19 outbreak have boarded their ships and left Dunedin. More than 200 overseas sailors had their time in managed isolation extended after some of them contracted COVID-19.
These two large fishing vessels, one called Te Raukura and the other called Alexei Slobochikov, had been berthed in Dunedin since early last month. A group of 235 sailors from Russia and Ukraine had been brought to New Zealand to crew local vessels, but during their time in isolation in Christchurch, 31 of them came down with COVID-19. The two ships are operated by a consortium of fishing companies which brought the crews to New Zealand and paid for their quarantine costs. A Ministry of Health spokeswoman said the sailors could not leave quarantine until it was satisfied there was no health risk. On Saturday it was confirmed all the sailors had been released to their vessels. Initially 7 mariners remained behind, but 3 of them are now considered to have recovered and are cleared for release. And 1 additional crew member remained behind after reporting symptoms during their departure health screening. They were tested and returned a negative result, but needed to be symptom-free for another 48 hours before being cleared to depart. In Dunedin, the South Today.
E whai aki nei. Young Southern construction toy fans put their bricks in a row, and we have the early week's weather for you. See you soon.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Hi, Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. Come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. Check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So come and check out Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
So business success for us is about really shaping people's future and making sure they're successful. So there's a nice synergy into these awards. Quite often as Kiwis, you know, we don't have tall poppy syndrome, and we don't often shout from the rooftops when people are doing really well or businesses are doing cool and innovative things. And I guess this is a good opportunity to actually take stock and recognise some of those people, and we're really proud to be involved with it.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air, and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
Step into Shop on Carrot and discover a shop full of treasures. We have a fantastic range of vintage and retro clothes, upmarket clothing labels, collectible items, beautiful jewellery, quality linen, and the best range of vintage haberdashery.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر.
Hoki mai noa. The annual Brick Show was held in Invercargill over the weekend, with crowds assembling to see around 30 Lego creations on display. The exhibits were made by people of all ages, including a local 5-year-old girl.
About 30 Lego displays were shown to the public at the Brick Show at ILT Stadium Southland over the weekend. The wide range of constructions included this exhibit by 5-year-old Lily Sargent.
This is a selection of some of Lily's favourite sets that we have at home. As you can see, we have a lot of mini dolls. Lily loves the Lego Friends especially. She likes to change their hair and their clothes and all the wee accessories they come with, so definitely that's her favourite thing.
Lily's father says that constructing with building blocks can be beneficial to a child's mental development.
Yeah, so when I was growing up, Lego and Technic was something that I did a lot of in my spare time, and I certainly think it helps young people form a creative brain and sort of help with their logical thinking, so it's great that I can share that with my kids.
And event organiser Gavin Evans agrees that Lego allows the building of mind-expanding structures.
There's nothing that limits it apart from your own imagination. There's pretty much builds of anything you can imagine out there. Somebody's either done it or will be thinking about doing it.
A gold coin entry to the event served as a fundraiser for a charity for sick children in the local region. In Invercargill, the South Today.
And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. Police warn a mongrel mob member who has removed his ankle bracelet should not be approached. Local international relations experts say the new US president-elect will bring a sense of global stability. And it's hoped a new Queenstown mountain bike trail will become a must-do for local and eventually overseas tourists. And now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT, we have Craig Page with us this evening. Kia ora, Craig.
Good evening. Yeah, we've got an interesting story about the former Dunedin company Ticket Rocket, which was placed in receivership in August. Of course, it's responsible for ticketing for a lot of the big events around New Zealand. First receivers report was out today, and showing they got debts of more than $8 million. So quite a big hole they've managed to get themselves into. You know, we've carried lots of stories of people who had purchased tickets to various shows, etc., and are still waiting for refunds after COVID-19. Not looking good for them, I have to say. Super Rugby franchises, Crusaders and Hurricanes are also tied up with them. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket as well. And the owner, Matthew Davey, appears to have returned home to Canada and isn't playing ball with the receivers, as you can imagine at the moment. Wow. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this one goes further down the track. Now, if you're struggling to find something for Christmas for your loved one, we might have the answer for you. A Dunedin woman's looking to cash in on the COVID pandemic and is creating COVID-19 Christmas decorations. She's a bit of a whiz as a crocheter, so she started crocheting COVID balls based on what the COVID virus obviously looks like. She's just described it as a bit of fun, really, to mark the end of a difficult year. So far sold about 40, but I suspect after tomorrow's article in the paper that will increase significantly. So might be just the ticket for you there. Travel pages. We're looking at some hidden gems around the country, which also happen to be boutique vineyards. A couple of short stays in the far north and 2 in the Otago region at the Gibbston Valley Lodge and Spa and the Stone Ridge Estates on the shores of Lake Hay. So the pictures look lovely and it would be very nice, you're quite right. Sport, big day in Christchurch tomorrow, New Zealand Trotting Cup at Addington, and they're expecting a huge crowd there, so that will be a great day out. We're going to preview that, and we're also going to carry the fields, which is a bit of a break from tradition in recent weeks, so that for those wanting to have a bet, grab tomorrow's paper. And sports editor Steve Hepburn also has a look at the red card issue, which sort of after Saturday night's rugby test. Plenty of them being dished out. And while some have criticised the ref, I guess, for getting a bit carried away, the reality is that the rules are there to protect player welfare and protect the heads, and that's what he did. So, yeah, good argument there and well worth a read as well.
Right. Very good.
That's us.
Craig.
Thank you.
Now time for a look at the weather. Beginning with the situation, it's generally fine and becoming finer as high pressure remains over the southern South Island till Friday. A bit cold to start, temperatures should warm by the week's end. To the locations now, where we start with the northwest of the South Island. Greymouth is mostly sunny on 20 degrees. Westport sees a bit more cloud on 18. Not quite so fine right at the top. Scattered showers for both towns, 18 degrees for Nelson, while Blenheim also has to endure 13 degrees. It's similar for much of Canterbury. Showers for Kaikoura and Ashburton, both on 12 degrees. Christchurch is cloudy on 13. Heading down south, where it's light winds and fine for everyone, the Catlins, Balclutha, Lumsden and Gore, all on 14 degrees. Travelling westwards to the Central Lakes, light winds rouse the otherwise fine day here too. 16, 17 and 18 degrees for Queenstown, Wanaka and Alexandra. Te Anau a bit cooler on 14 degrees to match the southern towns. And the light winds make it further north still, greeting Timaru and Oamaru with clouds both on 14 degrees, and Twizel and Omarama, which are otherwise fine, on 18. In Dunedin, cloudy tonight with an overnight low of 8 degrees. The cloud lingers low tomorrow morning with northeasterlies developing and finally breaks in the afternoon as the winds increase. It should be sunny then, but a bit cold. A high of 13 and a low of 8. Similar on Wednesday as early cloud gives way to sun and moderate winds before the cloud settles again at night. A high of 14 and a low of 7. And in Invercargill, fine and cold tonight with an overnight low of 5. Fine and cool tomorrow with some light winds and scattered clouds, a high of 14 and a low of 7. And mostly fine and sunny on Wednesday. With a few light winds, it's milder, a high of 16 and a low of 6. And that's the news this Monday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz or follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Nō reira, kia pai te pō. Ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Campbell Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.